guys, it's Gilly Wade with Table Flippin' Board Games, and we just finished playing Eldritch Horror. We got our butts kicked, but it was better than the one other time that I've played it. So there's that. As always, I'm joined by Ogre Yonder and Gameface Killa, and this time we are joined by Gospunk and Jofos. So with that, we've got a lot to discuss. Let's get started, Gameface Killa.
Well, Eldritch Horror is a pretty new game by Fantasy Flight. It's designed once again by Corey Konieczka, who's one of my favorite designers, as well as I think there was assistance by Nikki Valens. So, no relation to Richie, I guess. But mostly I think designed by Corey. And one of the things that I think that they did when they were thinking when they designed this game was they loved Arkham, but they wanted to take some of the things that were a little bit frustrating, like a longer play time, which may not necessarily have been fixed, and also the idea that some things should have been a little more streamlined as far as how the cards work together and the investigators, things like that, trying to make things a little more streamlined, which I do think they fixed some things. And then, of course, obviously making it extremely difficult from that point on. But it's kind of interesting, some of the things that they've changed. So that's about the biggest thing. Once again, it's based in HP Lovecraft world, which is a great atmospheric world to be in. I feel like the game has a lot of storytelling narrative elements that really get you immersed in the atmosphere too. So that's about the biggest part of the introduction. Not much there.
Yeah.
So what do we launch into here?
Well, I would like to start with the thing I do like about this game.
All right,
There's a couple things.
start positive.
So I'll start positive.
All right.
This game, I guess, did have a lot to fill, I guess, in my big shoes to fill in my eyes, because Arkham's my favorite board game ever. And I like Elder Sign, too, which was kind of the follow-up in that same universe, same characters, made also by Fantasy Flight. And then this is the third one in that series.
Yeah.
Some of the things I really like the art style. I think that it's really cool. The world map, it's very immersive, atmospheric 1920s. I think that that's really cool, and they did a great job with the art style. And then for the psychology of the game, like Arkham, I think it does a really good job of making you tense. And because you're just constantly trying to, oh god, we gotta deal with this now, and everything's happening, and your heart's racing when you gotta make some of the checks, and I do like that part.
Shit.
Hey,
I think I just
character
died.
like me.
So those are the things that I do like.
It's a cooperative game. I don't know. I'm a big fan. I've tried to keep in touch, and I know you guys touched on this because I have a pretty sound opinion about the categories of games. It seems like there's only been two. There is two. So let me know if I missed one. But there's the cooperative games where everybody's working to get a goal. You're not screwing over each other in any way. And then there's the competitive ones where you are trying to be in first place in some form. And we have stark opinions, actually. My cousin, I think, loves the competitive games by far, I think, if I'm right. I love the cooperative games much more than the competitive because I feel like there's an element, to me it seems like every competitive game we play has elements that aren't within the board game but that always pop up, and the game turns into something else, and I feel like you're not really playing the game, which is hard to understand. But for example, it seems like every competitive game we play goes the same route of someone clearly gets in the lead, everybody gangs up on that person gets beaten down right at the end, and the second or third place person always sneaks in and wins the game. And I just kind of feel like, it's not part of the game. Or my favorite thing is you do something that knocks the person out of the lead or just knocks them down to the point where they know I'm now lost. That person gets so pissed, goes berserk, and says, I don't care how the game turns out, I'm going to make sure you don't win. It's just all these elements that clearly aren't written into the rules or anything that I don't like when they come into play.
So as a cooperative game, did you like this? Did you like Eldritch?
I like Eldritch quite a bit. I've really trying not to form a fast opinion, on whether I like it more than Arkham. JC and I have the same. I like Arkham the most as well. This is my, I think, second time playing Eldritch. I think the first time we played. See, it was hard for me because Gilly makes fun of me because I really like difficult games.
Yeah.
And so if
Yeah.
you know you're going into this, you need to go into this thinking it's probably going to result in a loss.
Yeah.
And if you win this, it's going to be incredible. So for me, I wasn't as upset because I've made it farther today than I ever have in the past. I saw a little bit of everything. People died. A mystery was solved. Almost a second mystery. So, I was kind of a fan. But yeah, you got to know what you're getting into with this. So I like it quite a bit. I haven't formed an opinion on whether I like it more than
So,
Yes, I hate to be competitive on this issue about competitive versus cooperative. I think there might be a third category of game called cooperative impossible. It's kind of like a subcategory.
That's true.
This game, I don't know, I haven't quite reserved to or resigned to the idea that it's impossible, but it's pretty difficult.
Yeah.
Competitive games, is there an element of it's impossible? Not really. Because you kind of avoid the issue because it's based on other
Somebody will
Somebody will
always
win.
win.
Somebody wins.
Right.
Yeah, in this
But
case,
somebody's
everybody
sad.
loses.
So fine,
the
if
game
you,
where
if you
everybody
hate that,
loses.
oh, I'm going to get ahead and get beaten down by everybody. Okay, that's like a downside, but at least it's not going to be an impossible game. There will be a winner.
That's,
Yeah.
that's a good point. Maybe I don't win enough.
So have we covered all the
Well,
all the
it's false.
positive aspects at this point? Can we start riffing on it?
I guess I do think, I don't know, I like the Ghost Stories game a lot, which is
Yeah.
also an impossible game.
I was trying to figure out
And maybe
what's
if
different
this-
about these. Yeah.
Well, and I think I know.
What's that?
I think what comes down to it for me, why I don't like this game, and maybe if I approach it from this angle, then it's okay. From the angle of like, okay, I'm not going to win, and then when you do win, you're really, really happy.
Mhm.
But my problem with this game is it feels like it takes forever to do anything, and you always are wasting time, and psychologically, you're just so frustrated the whole game. There's so many things that make you feel like you waste time. For example, traveling in this game.
If you
In
want to move anywhere.
Yeah, in Arkham, you can go clear across town. It might take you 2 turns if you've got one of the slower characters, but
Or if
there
you've
are
got a
also
motorcycle.
items. Yeah, there are also
Go
there
anywhere.
are items
It
that
doesn't
can make
matter.
you travel more.
Yeah.
In this game, traveling clear across the planet is nearly impossible, and I understand because they're trying to make it realistic. Because in the
Right.
1920s,
There's
traveling,
no way you could have done that.
there's no way that you could have done that. But I don't think it's a mechanic that works for this.
Yeah.
Because, okay, but let's look at this for a second. It's a fantasy game. So if it's the fantasy is that gods can come out from portals and create these gates, why can't there also be some form of travel that's better than the way they have it? Why can't that also be part of the fantasy? Because it's so
Yeah.
frustrating to
If
me.
only there was an ability that just let you pop around the world and take care of things as they came up, that would be awesome.
That would be awesome.
Well, maybe Game Faces played it enough. Are there items that make traveling better that we haven't seen yet?
Well,
Some
one thing that we talked about that I didn't do this game is playing Akele. Is that her name? Akele.
The shaman.
Yeah. What
Okay.
I think this game really tries to specialize characters based on based on your character, whereas Arkham bases it more on the cards you draw.
Mm-hmm.
Because her particular power
yeah,
is,
that makes sense.
I should have gone for gates right off the bat and just jump, because after I close a gate, she can then jump to another gate or a clue token.
Mhm.
So I could have been jumping around to clue tokens and gates.
Bypassing monsters, too.
Right.
Right.
And I can bypass monsters because she starts with that Mists of Ryla
Right.
Mhm.
card. So had I been doing that, but I think one of the things that was not confusing, but maybe you don't realize the danger of right off the bat is the gates. In Arkham, the gates are very apparent why they're dangerous.
But that's a way that you can win.
Right.
You can
because
win
it is
by
that's
closing
the way
gates.
you
There's
win.
nothing to do with winning in this
Yeah.
game, closing gates, so that's probably why.
Well, a lot of it has to do with the more, but then there's that element in Arkham where the more gates you have open, the more dangerous it gets.
Mhm.
And this game has that too, but you don't realize how dangerous it is until you start getting the cards that make the omen track go around.
Yeah.
And then at that point, you cross a certain symbol, and you've got 4 gates that match that symbol. You're already a fourth of the way down.
Yeah.
For me, that was the big. So, from a just like you're playing the game and you're trying to figure out what the state of the game is and what you should be doing. That was one of the big problems for me. Is that so you
Yeah.
have the omen track which moves the omen sign around, which then may cause something to happen on gates, which may or may not be present on certain locations, which then may or may not have certain effects. So you're like, wow, these are 3 levels removed from when I can actually determine what the heck to do in this game.
Yeah.
It's like, are the gates going to matter? I don't know. I can win the entire game and never see a single monster.
Yeah.
Like, in this case, they totally screwed us. But in that level of, like, do I dedicate resources to closing gates, or do I just go complete the tasks? It's like, you have no idea. And the same thing, like, the movement to me really plays into this, which is one of the things that I really don't like, is it is so slow.
Yeah.
Like, you spent, what, 3 turns killing one monster?
No.
And then 2 turns after that, getting to somewhere, and not even being able to kill it, because it takes so long to kill stuff.
Well, here's what happened.
Like,
I spent 2 turns killing
ridiculous.
the monster, didn't kill it, and then happened to get lucky enough that it went away. Then spent two turns moving over to this one monster for a rumor that needed to be killed. Had 1 turn left by the time I got there, because you only get 3 of the, what are they called?
The Eldritch tokens, yeah.
Eldritch tokens, and each one is taken off when a certain card happens to come up, Mythos card.
Which is another thing, you don't know what's going to happen.
So I spent all of these turns getting over there, get there, fight him once,
Awesome.
get him,
Wanna go play
we get him
PlayStation
down.
now?
He dies
Yeah.
fighting it.
Dead.
We get it down to 1 hit point, and then the next
My
Mythos
4
card
turns
comes up,
spent getting
destroys
over
the
this
monster, and we
monster.
lose all of our clue tokens. So I
Useless.
wasted 5 turns.
I hate this game.
No.
5 turns on
And I
this
think
one
that,
monster.
I think that something like that kind of mechanic would be fine if the turns didn't take 20 minutes each. Like, you know, you spent like a good 2 hours trying to do that, and then it's like if each turn was like 2 minutes, and it was like, oh great, man, I wasted a few turns getting over here. Whatever, we can keep playing. That's fine. But this is, I think maybe this is, I'm realizing this is becoming kind of a theme for me. Shorter turns. Make the turn shorter. Make it simpler just to get your turn done. All the mechanics can be as complicated as you want, but it's the combination of really, really, like, incredibly slow turns, and also not being able to do anything on your turn. It should be one or the other. It should be your turns are slow and you can do a lot on your turn, or your turns are fast and you can't do very much. Not both.
Yeah.
And that's what I feel like the problem is with this. It's both.
I do think there is an element, though, that is slower on Vassal for this game.
Yeah?
Yeah, because that makes it slower because I had to open up windows to get to the
Oh, to
gate
give us
cards.
tokens. And,
Yeah, to get
yeah,
tokens.
that's right.
So there was some elements of when we got to the encounters where it's like, oh yes, you have a gate encounter, and then that's in this menu, and so there's still a little bit of messing with the. Yeah,
That's true. Okay, so that could definitely contribute to it.
But then I do think that there are quite a few more cards that delay you than there used to be.
Yeah,
in
and that's
Arkham.
already you're just depressed when you get delayed because it's just taking a turn is so detrimental already. And I do think that it's cool. I like that they tried to specialize you.
Yeah, I
to
thought
make
that was
the
awesome.
characters more like their abilities more focused to how the characters are, their personalities. But the inability to move across the map to deal with the things that your character's good at is horrible. I hate, because my character was great at fighting monsters if a cultist was there. 1, no cultists for the first half of the game. 2, once they were so spaced out, it would have taken me so many turns to move across the map to deal with monsters, which is what I am for.
I agree.
I was going to ask Game Face while we're on it real quick. Do you just call original Arkham? Just call it Arkham?
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Well, anyway, in case people don't know, the objective in Arkham is, as was said, you just close so many gates. So really, all you worry about are the gates that are out and the monsters that are out.
There's not the tangential objective, which is the
Why
other
do
thing
you
I want to
think
talk
they
about.
changed that now in Eldritch and added a third thing to worry about, a mystery, and technically that's how you win the game? I've played games in the past of Eldritch where we just forgot the mystery was there. It didn't even work on it.
Yeah, that's how our first game went.
Arkham's hard enough. Why did they add a third thing, you think?
Maybe they're trying to combine mansions? I forgot about mansions, by the way.
Yeah. But these are the fully cooperative games. So you mentioned the fully cooperative Arkham games. Mansions is sort of Descent, like it's got 4 people against 1.
But it is still set in the same with the same characters. So this would be the 4th in that.
I think one of the things they try to do, besides specializing the characters, is they were also trying to specialize the ancient ones. So you're not just playing every ancient one you play against in Arkham is pretty much the same except for one or two changed rules.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have in this game, you not only have a different boss that has changed rules, but they also have their own set of clue cards. So every time you went to get a clue, that's based on the ancient one you're playing. It has to do only with Azathoth. Yeah.
Oh, so they're trying to make it more like scenario based.
Right.
Okay.
So it is a little bit more like
cool.
a scenario. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Yeah, and the mysteries are
does
also So if you play Cthulhu, you would be playing a different set of mysteries. Azathoth ones, I think, that are so hard is they're all based on gathering clues, which
they're so hard to get.
Everything
that's
is so
not,
much.
That's not a normal thing.
Right.
That's an Azathoth specific.
Okay,
Right,
so
right.
maybe we need to play this with not Azathoth, because I think the only 2 times we played it have both been with Azathoth.
That might be
But
it.
the other thing that and this would be my one beef, is I think that there are some elements of the game that are already difficult and that they went through and made everything more difficult. Like in Arkham, just going to a location and ending your movement there got you a clue token. In this game, you have to end your turn there and beat the clue card, or pass the test of the clue card. Then on top of that, if you want to close a gate or go to an expedition, you were joking about it several times, there are 2 tests for every
And they're different.
gate and
and every character has good and bad checks, right?
Yeah.
So you have to not only do, oh good, the first check is something that I'm good at. Awesome, I passed it. I'm great. Oh, the next thing I only get to roll 1 die.
Your reward
Are
is
you
taking
kidding
another
me?
test.
Yeah,
Why
exactly.
have the stats so different if you're going to have to take 2 tests that are probably going to be 1 good for you, 1 bad for you?
That's the theme of this game, is what it feels like to me is, hey, if you like Arkham and you think the difficulty's fine as it is,
And it plays too quickly.
right, how about playing a game where we give you a few more things you have to do that now makes it impossible?
Yeah.
Would you guys like something?
How about that?
Just constant extra steps I don't remember in Arkham.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
The thing that I like, though, one of the things I like is that now the skill checks are a lot more, and especially combat, it's a lot more streamlined, though.
That's true.
Because the will checks used to be affected by so many cards, and each card had certain, like even the hand thing, we were talking about that when we were playing the streaming, is to have a weapon on, you had to have a hand. Sometimes it would cost 1 hand, and sometimes it would cost 2, which meant that in any combat round you could only use 2 hands worth of
But
items.
to that effect, I feel like the psychology of that for this game didn't quite hit the mark, because you think, okay, at least if you're used to Arkham, I was like, okay, I have this spell and I have this gun. Typically in Arkham, this spell I know is one-handed, and this gun I know is also one-handed, so I'd be able to use both. They both affect combat, so I should be able to use both my spell or my combat check. No, you can just flat out only ever use 1 item that modifies your combat.
But there are some like the bullwhip, for example. You can't use the combat modifier, but you can use the other modifier, which gave you like a reroll, or I can't remember exactly what it did. But so there are. I think they've adjusted the modifiers.
It's probably how they balanced it.
Yeah.
They used it to balance, but yeah, I know. Like I can understand that that's another way of balancing the game, but I think that Gilly's right from just thinking about how you're playing the game and thinking about how your character's behaving. If you have 2 hands, you should use 2 hands worth of stuff.
Yeah. So and if I have these items, if I've worked to get these items, or I've made Charlie Kane work to get these items, then I should be able to use them. I effectively have items that I'm not using, and I have to walk clear across the world to be able to give them to someone else, which wastes all of my turns. It's just frustrating to me, and something that I really liked about Arkham was, you would say you'd get, toward the end, you get to gather up all of these dice. You're like, look at all these dice they get to roll. That's so cool. And I think maybe the monsters were harder in Arkham, but you still were like, oh, that's cool though, because I get to roll 9 dice. Yeah, you have to beat them all at once.
It's a big difference.
And that's kind of fun. Yeah, you have to beat them all at once. Yep. So not only that, but this game slows down in that the hard monsters, you have to spend turns sitting there fighting them because you can only attack them once per turn. Anyway.
But I did feel there were some monsters in Arkham that were impossible.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. But I did like being able to say, like, oh, I get to roll 10 dice this round. Yeah, that's super cool. And in this one, it's like, oh, you can only ever use one thing, and I have to sit here for 3 turns until I slowly whittle this monster down. And I have to do a will check every time because, oh no, I see him again and he horrifies me again.
Yeah.
Even though I've been standing here this whole
I
turn.
remember that.
Makes no sense.
I know what he's about.
I know what he's about.
I shot him a couple times. It's fine.
Bang, bang, bang. Oh my god, I'm scared again. Like, what? I don't even understand. I don't know.
Yeah.
What did you guys think? What I liked about this is I felt like what I did take away from this game is I felt like I learned a lot more about the investigators. There were a couple of investigators that I know that I've looked at in prior games and thought this isn't something that's going to work. That today worked really, really well. And I don't know what you guys...
Like who? Which one's here?
Mine...
Richie Rich, the politician?
I liked mine. Well, that's the
know
thing
that
about
one's
this
good.
game, too, is... And people, please comment if we're missing something. Like, hey, it's not as hard if you think about this. I'd love to know stuff.
Yeah.
If you...
But it
Anybody has
seems
strategy.
like...
Help us.
Yeah.
Help.
The politician, you have to pick him.
Yeah.
It seems like somebody has to
absolutely.
be him, and I don't like
He
that.
is so strong.
No, I don't like that.
I don't like that you're forced, like, here's one guy that somebody's going to have to be.
I mean, I liked playing him. I liked the
He's
way that they
obviously
designed him
cool.
because he's like, you never leave San Francisco. If
You gotta be
move,
okay with
if
never
you're the politician
moving.
and you move, you're doing it wrong. Like,
Well, you
there's
still get
there's no reason
you
to
still
move.
get the freedom of doing your actions, though.
Yeah. I mean, you still have the freedom of
city.
doing your actions, but your actions need to be rest
city.
or get rid of your persistent effects and
Get rid
buy
of your
stuff.
debt. Your
Get rid
crippling
of
debt.
your crippling debt and buy stuff. That's all you do.
And you almost
But-
always had to give away an action. There was always somebody
Yeah,
needing...
or if I didn't get rid of my debt, then
something.
I was giving away an action.
Yeah.
Which I mean it's cool because it's kind of like the
What
What's
a
it called?
politician would really do.
yeah.
You know, if you have
Yeah.
someone on your side that is
it's
a
like helping
politician,
people out,
yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
He
So-
can help you, but
Behind
in,
the scenes, yeah.
in Battlestar, the executive order.
yeah.
And
It's
you know,
all like
in
executive order, which is
Pandemic.
very strong. Like
Mhm.
being able to give a specific person, like, hey, you need this like little boost to get something done, then I can give it to you.
Except if it's a silent.
Except if it's a silent, in
But
which case, but there's no silence in this.
In
thankfully.
Pandemic, there's also the pink person
Yeah, the-
moves everyone else. So it seems like people really like
Mhm.
the idea of having a character. It's if
It's
you're okay
cool.
with playing a character where you
Yeah.
don't do as much, but
Yeah.
you are constantly you're like the support.
Yeah, yes, exactly. It's
You're
playing
the
the support, and I think
support
it's
of
really cool.
Eldritch.
And like the way that it works, and the fact that you actually are good at what you're supposed to do right from the beginning, I think is also really strong. Because the movement personally didn't affect my character very much or at all because I never moved.
Mm-hmm.
But so I got the assistant, which gave me +1 to diplomacy.
Mhm.
Diplomacy is that's the little hands.
No.
Influence.
Influence. Sorry, influence. So it gave me +1 influence, and I started with 4 influence. So that starts me off with 5 dice that I get to roll, and I get to re-roll 1. And that means that right from the very first turn, I am good at what I'm going to do. So and that way, like, you can start being helpful right from the very beginning. And I
Yeah.
think that his character is really well designed from a just isolated perspective. You look at him and you're like, man, that would be a cool character to play.
But I understand.
And then you look at the rest of the characters and you're like, damn, we can't do anything unless this character's in the game.
Yeah, that
because
is kind of.
he has to be there, just because otherwise there's no, like, you waste turns getting items and like
I was going to ask Goss.
Yeah.
I think I was most impressed by his character that I'd never seen before. I mean, I don't know if people watch, but he was shutting down all the mystery stuff in the beginning.
Yeah.
yeah, he was.
We wouldn't have been able to do that.
Oh, yeah,
the
because you could-
generation's huge.
generating clue tokens.
That was amazing.
Yeah,
At
the
least for-
What
synergy
was
with
the other-
the Azathoth.
The other ability was if you're in the same space, you get to reroll 2 instead of 1, which is like a minor thing.
Oh,
Well, but
I
you
think
got
we
to
ever
reroll
used it.
too, right?
I got to do it once. Yeah,
I want to
yeah.
talk about that.
What?
The re-rolling for a clue. And I think maybe the problem is that I've only played Azathoth, where the clues are so freaking important. And they're so hard to get. You have to go and do a check, or you have to have the right person that will generate the clues. But it seems to me like, okay, the clues must be really important. So if I need it for this skill check, surely I would be able to roll all of my dice in the re-roll, use it to re-roll all of my dice, right? Wrong. In a skill check, you have to use one of your very important clue tokens, and if you need to re-roll, if you've missed your skill check, and you only get to re-roll 1 die.
Yeah.
It's the same
What?
as Arkham, though.
At Arkham,
But-
yes, but Arkham is far easier to get clues.
Yeah.
Far easier.
Yeah, and I think that I never like using clue tokens for rerolls. I feel like the payoff is not as good as risk, but
sometimes you have extras in Arkham.
Right.
If you have an extra clue in here,
you
power to you.
So I think that to me, I felt like, the chances of you ever wanting to use a clue for that are a lot smaller than in Arkham, too.
Just, give me an injured knee, give me paranoia. I would rather take that ever than waste one of my precious... I think my character had one clue token the whole game.
Yeah,
I had zero. Not having
never
clue
got a
token was your
single clue
downfall,
token.
too.
Yeah.
How would I get them?
Yeah.
That's how you died.
Yeah.
Well, they make them...
But all I would have done is just... I could have
everything for the bad guys, you want to call
Need to
it,
actually
the
gain
ancient
that
one. The clue tokens are huge. Like they're spaced, they're really hard. They're spaced far apart, hard to get, and you can't do anything of significance without them. And I thought, if they're that important, why do you need two for everything? Why can't any of this stuff be one clue token to solve this mystery, solve this gate?
Yeah.
If they could reduce that, but I did like the combination of Goss and I's characters where he was making a clue token.
That was
once,
really cool.
Yeah.
and I could throw him one, and then he was constantly ready to do something. But God, it would have been nice if something in there maybe only cost one, and then the clue tokens, they're so heavy, important for the bad guy, and then when it's like, okay, let's turn around and see if they help the investigators. Well, not really. Most you can do is reroll one little die. They're hard to get. You don't generate them much.
You get to reroll all of whichever dice you want.
Right, Elder Sign you reroll
for a clue
entire
token.
roll.
Anything you want.
Either reduce the cost or let you give you a little bit more with the investigators and clue tokens, I think.
And I think one of the things that I do like about this game, but it definitely worked against us in this particular game, is when you construct the Mythos deck, it's different than Arkham. You don't have a set Mythos deck. You actually, there's three types of cards. There's green, yellow, and blue difficulties. The green are the easier cards on you. The yellow is kind of intermediate, and the blues are the rumors, which are like the worst cards. So when you play against each ancient one, you cull from each of the decks and make 3 stages. And so like in the first stage there's going to be 2 greens and 1 blue, and then in the third stage there's going to be like 3, 1 green, 2 yellows, and no blues. And then the last stage there's going to be 1, so every deck is composed of a different number of cards, so you may not see the same Mythos cards in a given game. Yeah. The only thing that sucks about that is the rumors that you pull in. There's only 2 rumors in that whole deck for when you play against Azathoth. And the one that we got was like the worst one because the TikTok men destroy all the clues everywhere.
It turned the game. I kind of thought we were going to win the game.
I did think we were.
Yeah, I thought we were going to pull it
out.
out. Yeah.
And they changed it completely.
Yeah, because they destroyed
so
like
hard.
what 8 or 9 clue tokens.
And again, it goes back to how difficult the clue tokens are. When they wiped them off the board and out of our inventory, you know you're going to wait at least 5 or 6 turns before there's a reasonable amount of clue tokens on the board.
Right. Yeah. Or any more Mythos cards.
And by that point, we had way too many gates. Way too many gates.
Yeah, we had 6, 7 gates.
Our whole strategy was eliminated. We were like, let's just do this before all the gates come out.
Right.
But
How do clues contribute to closing gates too? By the way.
Well, so a lot of the gates that we saw didn't really seem to be affected by clue tokens, but there are some where it says spend a clue token or else you have to do some kind of skill check. And if you fail the skill check, you don't close the gate.
Yeah.
So they can make closing a gate easier, but again, it's more random. Yeah, it depends on the gate card you draw. So there's,
Have you ever seen mysteries that don't have to do clue tokens? You could do something else.
I've only played against Azathoth.
It's always easiest to play against Azathoth in every game because you don't have to deal with the added bonus of if he comes out, then you fight him, which is also a time constraint. We always try to play the shorter because these are already a long game. Yeah. So
with the other ancient ones, if you you normally have to beat 3 mystery cards. Yeah. With the other ancient ones, if the doom track goes down, he just wakes up. And what that means is you have to beat the 3 plus an extra 4th card. Oh. So it's not like you battle him directly like in Arkham where it's over. You keep going.
You still have to do the mystery.
You still have to solve the same mysteries that were already out.
Wait, does he do anything once he wakes up? Like come and attack you or anything?
So
all it does is lengthen the game?
Yeah, I believe the 4th mystery there are some cards that add some kind of strong effect that happens once he wakes up.
Lengthens the game. So like, now there's another one. Yeah. Have fun. I just added 2 hours to your game. I wanted to talk about, since we're kind of on that subject, the idea that can you explain how that game would have been different had we had 4 players instead of 5?
So there's a reference card that you pull out for however many players you have, and most of the mysteries are based on the number of players. That's how they scale the difficulty from having one person up to 8 people, which is something I love about the game, is that you can play up to 8 people. There's very few games that let you play with that many people. Yeah, and based on difficulty, it determines how many clues are spawned. When you spawn clues, how many gates open, how many monsters spawn when monster spawns happen. So there's everything kind of changes. But the problem is when you have an odd number of players, you have to round up. So even though you have one fewer investigator, you're technically playing the game.
Yes,
like you have one more.
This is ridiculous.
It seems like they're just arbitrarily, like they sat around one day and said, okay, we have 7 decisions to make, and then they just went through hard.
Yeah.
Doesn't really think about it. I just make it all the hard choices.
Yeah. Okay, so had we had 4 people playing, the way it was now, that first mystery was we had to 3 times discard 2 clue tokens.
Right.
So had we have played with 4 people, how would that have been?
We would have had to have discarded 2 times 2 clues.
No, this is ridiculous. There is not some way that they can make that scale to an odd number of players. If you can play with an odd number, it needs to be better than just we're gonna make it. This is what we're gonna do. We're gonna round up so that they have to solve the mysteries with as if they were playing with 6 people. But it's okay because we're not gonna have as many gates and monsters come out as if there were 6 people. That doesn't work.
No,
it does not work.
To me, especially because the gates aren't the hard part.
No,
like the gates don't matter really. You know,
until there's too many.
Until there's too many.
When there's too many gates, then that's a problem. But like the hard part is getting to the mysteries.
Winning the game.
Yeah, it's getting to the mysteries and then solving the mysteries.
Yes.
Like
getting around the board.
Yeah, which is the part that they don't scale down to an odd number of people.
No, and I even thought, okay, well, what if we make 2 mysteries that are at the 6th player, but then 1 mystery that's at the 4 player, so that it's kind of 1's too easy, but 2 are more difficult. Maybe that would have been okay, or like given some sort of bonus or something. But I just. And I don't know, maybe it's... I'm sorry, Fantasy Flight, you make my favorite games, but Battlestar also has a problem with even number players, so I don't know.
It's like they design it with a very specific number of players in mind, and then they're like, how can we take this and just tweak it a little bit to make the other players?
Yes.
You do with the Doom track, I bet. If you're on an even Doom, then don't round. If you're on an odd Doom, then round up. And that would do like that.
Yeah, exactly. Something like that. That would make a lot of sense.
Just like
because the arbitrary, just like let's make this just ridiculously hard.
But don't worry, you won't have as many gates and won't have as many monsters. That'll even it out.
No,
it doesn't.
I did notice that on the reference card between 5 players and 6 players, there wasn't a difference for however many gates you open and clue tokens you spawn.
So it's exactly the same.
So it's the same difficulty,
but you have one more person. What the heck? Are you kidding me?
So wow, dang.
Your reward is you get a brag if you win with 5 players instead of 6.
Wow, that's insane.
My mind is blown.
Yeah. But maybe they, I don't know how they determine like their probability, but I'm assuming they probably crunch some numbers and see where maybe the winning stats start to go up. And so they're like, okay, with 5 players, here's where this is the point where the game is difficult enough that they they don't win as much. So that's where we want it. That's like the sweet spot.
Perfect.
Yeah, right.
And so then they say, well, we don't want to move up, just because they go to 6 players, it doesn't really change that much. Maybe statistically, probability of doing certain things.
I'm betting an extra person would help.
I think if we were to do this,
it would be huge.
If we were to do this again, we should just add a 6th person that we control.
All of us control.
Specifically because getting back to the movement.
Someone play
like, if you just have a 6th person on the board, there's somewhere that they will be that will put them closer to everywhere.
Yeah.
That is like clue tokens and the mysteries and like everything else.
I cannot believe there's no difference in gates and monsters and clues.
That's insane.
Another tweak I think would help. I think I mentioned earlier, I was asking Game about are there travel items. I forgot. There was one we saw at least, that plane
the
that
charter
lets you.
flight.
But
but they don't come around. So even Arkham, you could deputize, as Ogre was saying, you get the motorcycle.
Yep.
That's his favorite thing to do in Arkham.
Have a few more travel, and then the characters have one or two characters that give you a travel ability rather than this dumb ability that I read a lot that just doesn't seem to help. There are several characters that give you some sort of power when you're in the space with another investigator. How often did you really see that happen?
Never.
If you're in the same space, you're wasting, because it's the whole planet.
Yeah.
And take one more of those away and add one more. There's only one investigator that travels. The sea guy lets you travel on the sea a bit better. Have one for roads and rail, and I think that would help.
And have some sort of mailing system. Okay, so like you put an item in the mail, and then the next turn the item, because there's no point.
Maybe it takes 2 turns, but sommes it would have taken you 5 turns to walk the thing.
Exactly.
I know.
Can you mail clue tokens?
Here you go.
I don't know.
World's ending. World's ending, but I got you this gun. So
well, if the world's ending and we have to pay for crap, then the post can
office
clearly still go.
Yeah, exactly.
Clearly.
Well, I think one thing that I wish that I had done, and if you as players are ever playing with Achille, I think you have to have someone dedicated to gate closing. Because in this game, you don't have to worry about having clues necessarily, but you should have someone working on closing gates, because that eliminates 2 things. It eliminates monster spawns, and it eliminates, obviously, the Omen track moving past and moving the Doom track down lower, which buys you a little bit more time with everything in the game. That's like one of the biggest things I felt like I wish I had done differently.
Yeah, because having those gates open kept moving the track down, and it moved down by 4 in the last turn, which was crazy. Yeah. I went to go get some coffee, and then it was over. I was like, came back, I was like, oh, I guess that happened.
Well, and it doesn't help either that the one encounter that I do, because I'm like, okay, I'll do an encounter, and then the encounter happens, and it's like, oh, you fail, so move the Doom track 1 space. It's like, oh, what's the worst possible thing?
Well, like 2. Mine was you fail, lose 3 sanity. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, that'd be like all of my sanity.
Yeah, some have a max of 4, and you lose 3 for just missing a check. That's insane. Literally.
And unlike crazy. Arkham, again, I don't know why I always like to look at the investigator's powers. Several guys that give you free, like, hey, recover isn't there a standard?
Yeah, recover your... Yep.
Doesn't matter where you're at, that's my power. There's not one investigator.
There is, isn't there?
Is there one?
But you have to be in the same space, so...
Again,
never gonna happen. Never gonna happen.
I do like that you don't have to worry about just taking detours to go to the hospital or the medical center.
That is
you
true.
You can rest anywhere as long as there's not a monster.
But its actions are precious. I mean,
come on,
a rest action kind of as long as there's not a monster.
Sorry.
I mean, there needs to be a guy with a power. That kind of seems like Arkham's theme.
Yeah.
Hey, the psychologist character is going to give you sanity back.
Yeah.
I kind of miss that too.
Yep.
I also wish that you could do 2 of the same action.
Yes.
That was,
Yes,
I mean,
because that makes no sense.
Well, I can understand
Why can't
for the
you travel
buying
again?
thing.
Yeah, maybe not for Asset.
Well, yeah, from like a mechanics, I think it'd be too strong, specifically for my character to be able to buy twice in 1 turn.
Yeah.
I would buy everything.
Or even encounters. But maybe just for moving.
But moving.
Yeah.
Movement. If you could move
just
twice in 1 turn.
Moving,
hold on, can't you do that in Arkham? You can move twice, right?
No, you only have 1 movement.
You just remember you have speed.
You just have speed. Okay,
which is perfect.
Which you can adjust.
Which is perfect.
Yeah. Oh wait. Oh, you can move your slider up. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
And it's funny. No matter what mode of travel, they're all the same. In real life, a boat probably takes longer than a train. In this game, boats and trains, everything, it's 1. You think the train's like, hey, if you're moving along a train,
even walking,
you move 2.
Oh yeah, walking was fantastic.
Yeah. Boat, they're gonna go. They're all the same.
You can walk across the Sahara in the same time it took you to
you could
take a boat like this.
Take a train.
I do wish that there were more travel assets.
Yeah,
for sure, and ones that
just let you travel twice.
1.
Yeah, travel twice. Travel twice. We can try it again with the house rule. Travel twice.
I mean, I know they say that their response will be, look, you can have 2 tickets and move up to 3 spaces total.
But
thanks.
Let me move. That's still
that takes 2
a third.
turns, right?
Yeah, and that's still only a third of the map. I used that and got across a third of the map.
Well, one thing that I was thinking too, or that I've done a couple of times when I've played, is as my second action at the end of 1 turn, I'll prepare, and then at the very beginning of another action, I'll prepare and then move.
Travel, yeah.
But yeah, it does take 2 actions to do.
And in that time,
And if you-
a rumor's appeared. There's 5 new monsters.
Yeah,
and
or if you
2
need to
new
get a clue
gates.
token on your current location, then you can't do that.
Right.
Or, yeah. I mean, there's just like...
Oh, what happened to sneaking?
Sneaking.
That was the one.
It's just been relegated to the Mists of Ryla. You know, you can sneak past monsters.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, that's one thing that
That's right.
that was one thing they made easier is you can now just walk past a
Mhm.
monster.
Really?
Which makes sense.
Oh.
You just don't go into the town. You go around the town. and
Yeah, but it's different because in Arkham you didn't fight the monster until after you closed the gate.
Right.
And in this one,
jump
like
in.
you go straight into the gate, right? And then on this one, you have to encounter
fight
the
the
monster
monsters and then you close
before
the
you
gate.
can close the gate.
Right. Yeah, that does make it a lot different because the gate keeps... The problem is reversing those, the gate keeps spawning monsters.
Yeah.
So you can
Sure
have
does.
this set where you just never actually make it to the gate to
Right,
close it.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The nice thing is, though, if you do defeat a monster, you get another encounter. But
Mhm.
if there's a lot of monsters on the space, that's a lot
mean,
of work.
But guess what? You
London,
don't get a
3.
trophy.
Yeah,
I miss you, trophies.
I when Gilly was talking about that, it made me realize I missed this too. You got a trophy for a gate
Mhm.
Yeah.
in regular Arkham, and a trophy for monsters. Eventually, if you kill enough monsters, you could turn that in for something really awesome.
Yeah.
Saving
Yeah.
up for something.
Something-
you don't
an
save for
Elder
anything
Sign, help you
this
win the game.
Or clue
Yeah.
tokens.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Or
Or clue tokens. Freaking clue tokens.
Well, I thought it was neat.
If you could kill monsters and get clue tokens,
I know. I miss.
Would've been
What was that? The
fantastic.
science building.
yeah.
I miss you, science building.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And
I
trophies.
missed the science building a lot. They're all there. Yeah.
Technology is not there.
Sorry.
No science building at
No
all.
science building.
Can't do it. Can't do it.
But I mean, I was gonna ask you guys too. Like, what's the one thing you think you change about it? I know Gilly's probably the travel,
The travel.
hands down.
Travel.
Is probably needs the biggest fix.
Yeah,
or-
it was my problem the first time I played it. It continues to be so annoying to me. I'm also angry about the 5 to 6 person thing, but that can be fixed by just adding
Yeah.
apparently by just adding another character.
But travel,
But travel.
the first thing.
Yeah.
Is there anything great about it? We should be fair, I guess. That they do right.
What?
One thing.
Yeah.
About Eldritch?
Yeah.
Say one good thing, one bad thing.
Yeah.
Why do I have to go first?
A compliment sandwich.
You're the host.
Oh god.
She has a hard time
It's an
getting
artwork.
Oh yeah, I love the artwork, and I do like what Game Face Killer mentioned, where they do an awesome job of making the characters more realistic in that they their abilities kind of match their backstories, and I think
Yes.
that's cool. You can get into your character, like the mindset of your character a lot more. I love atmospheric games that you can kind of like be a part of, and I think that I love that change from Arkham to this.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Ogre.
Oh.
Oh, I was just going to say, I also
Oh.
like the fact with the characters that you start with the starting items that are set, as opposed to Arkham where it would just be 2 common
Oh,
items.
right.
Yes.
And
I
so
like
you
that a
don't
lot.
know the mix of equipment you're going to get. So you might be
Mhm.
a great spellcaster but not get any
Good
good
spell.
spells. Yeah.
Yeah,
And so you're-
that is also cool.
Yeah. Thanks for stealing mine, Jared.
Oh, sorry.
Wait, that was
No.
your positive.
Yeah. Well, so,
Oh.
I mean, I also really like that it's set how you're going to start depending on your characters.
Yeah.
I also really like the thought that went into the character's design.
Mhm.
That not only, I mean, they have the backstory that goes with them and their starting items and everything, but also just kind of each character has a function, and totally independently of whether it's a good thing or not, that their function is so necessary that you absolutely have to have that character.
Mhm.
But like that, I mean, the character that I played, I really liked him. I really like that
Yeah.
he's not just a guy with health that you use to kill stuff with weapons, or a guy with sanity that you use to kill stuff with spells.
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
there's something different, which is cool.
Right.
I like that. I really like that there's so many different things, or transferring
Yeah.
clue tokens, or
Mhm.
generating them, or like jumping from gate to gate, which
Yeah.
probably should have happened.
Yeah.
But,
What do you think that needs
But-
most improved?
uh,
Would you say travel also, or
so for me, it's between travel. So it's like I said earlier. It's for me. It's that the pacing of the game is not as it should be, and it could have been an artifact of us playing it on Vassal. I don't think it was that much because the first time we played it, it was in person.
Well, it was so long, and then at the very end, it was just like, bam, you're done.
I also kept getting thrown by our, and this is something that's a problem with Vassal is there's not really. I mean, you could add a turn track, but it's very hard. Going? Yeah, it sometimes was very hard to remember. Okay, we just did.
Yeah, we got thrown off of that
encounter, and then now it's yours. It's so.
Yeah.
Right.
I was glad that I thought of putting those tokens at the bottom because if we hadn't done that, I would have been mixed up like about every time.
Yeah, and I mean, I know it's hard to design this kind of stuff with for board games in general, just because everything is physical. And I mean, obviously we're playing this in virtual space, but it's still physical because you're still dragging stuff around. You're still doing all the rules yourself.
Right.
But you look at a game like this where you have, it's very serialized. One person takes their action, and then, does something. Another person takes their action, does something, action, does something. You can't ever do something while someone else is doing stuff.
There's no like reaction.
Right. There's no reaction, and there's no parallelization. And so that what that causes, so like you can't take your turn or think about what you're really going to do during your turn while somebody else is doing their turn.
Right.
Because everything's dependent on everything else.
Yeah.
And not only, and one turn is everybody's individual actions are all serialized, and then everybody's individual encounters are all serialized.
Which I do think they tried to fix by doing it that way. Like, I think they tried to make it not so bad by doing all the actions and all the encounters, so you kind of see in it, but I agree.
That is how they tried to break it up. Yeah, I completely agree. That's how they tried to break it up.
It's this way with Arkham as well.
Yeah, and so it's just that, like, when the design is such that it takes a very long time to get from turn to turn, and then your individual turn is also not very effective.
Yes.
That it's frustrating because it's like, man, I sure spent a long time doing nothing. And like,
which is why I want to fix travel.
So like, think about the time when you're delayed, right? You're delayed, and then you might as well go get a sandwich because your next turn is 20 minutes from now.
That's true.
Like, there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can learn. You're not going to be able to. You can't even predict anything because you don't know what's going to happen until your next turn starts. So it's not like a game like Smash Up or Small World or one of those games where it's like you can kind of pay attention during other people's turns because you can form your strategy around what's in your hand or what you've got or what you're planning or whatever. No, it's just like I might as well come back when my turn starts because that's when I'm going to know what to do. And so I think that honestly, it's a hard problem. It's a really hard problem to fix that with this kind of game.
Yeah. I think it's probably RPGs in general. Because if you want to build your character up, you want to take the time to make your character awesome.
And it's a very, I appreciate it's a very, very complicated game. Which is probably what, what Arkham games should be. They are very complicated, especially if you start playing with expansions and everything. And that makes them very compelling and interesting to play. But at the same time, it's like, I don't have anything to do while it's not my turn. And, I don't know, that's especially when people call me Charlie and not Ogre. Then I'm like, man, I'm spacing off, like looking at the map, kind of, man, I like how that stuff looks. Wait, what? Should I be what?
What do you think? Game face? Like positive and negative?
I think...
Anyway, / rant.
I think one of the things I really love about the game is that everything is, like you were saying, is more scenario-based. I like the fact that you could play almost a different game every time you play, because all of the mystery cards are going to change, all of the clue cards are going to change, and other elements too are going to change based on the ancient one. Like the level of the Doom track is different also, and I do like the characters. I think one of the things probably that if I could change anything the most would be. I like the idea of having characters sort of having, instead of being able to move anywhere and do everything, you kind of have to cover a territory. The only problem with that is I do think that upgrading the difficulty of the getting clue tokens and closing gates is almost too hard, because then it makes it so that you could cover a territory, but if you have terrible skills in certain areas...
You can't specialize characters to be good at one thing and then have them only be able to cover a certain area.
Right. Because you really can't predict where the gates are going to open, where monsters are going to spawn, or where the expedition is going to be, or items, or whatever. So, to me, I think that there are some elements of the game they didn't really need to increase the difficulty with, but...
But it's Arkham, so
so why not?
Did it anyway.
It definitely would feel good to get through a game and be able to beat it. That's definitely for sure. And I feel like if I played it again, maybe closing the gates would make a difference, but it would definitely make the game a lot more grueling and longer.
Yeah.
I can't imagine
a 6-player.
Anyone played Arkham and said these clue tokens just come too easy.
Yeah, they're
Can you
not
do something
that...
about that?
They're not
Here's
that
Eldritch
easy.
Horror.
Yeah.
Did anybody? And if you were the person that did that, you don't know what you're talking about. Stop it! You're killing us. What about you, Goss? Positive, negative?
Positives and negatives, yeah. I definitely like how the player or character abilities were kind of, I'd say, bold or effective. They weren't just like generic or minor. They had like the governor, for example, or senator, or congressman.
Politician.
The politician.
Or the spy. Or all of them actually, I suppose. I don't know if I can say generally all of them, but that actually reminds me. Do you get to choose your character, or is it like at random?
You do get to choose. Yep.
So that's kind of cool. You might get
Started with
to
the first
explore
player.
combinations and stuff. But I wonder if like there'd be certain characters that you'd never play just because they're lame.
Yeah.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
lame.
Seems like there's several.
All the same location characters, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think I'm kind of that's what ogres. What he pointed out was the character's abilities.
Yeah.
So I'd kind of chime in on that too. As for changing, I think I feel the same way. Clues were too sparse, and yes, the pacing is annoying because it might take 2 or 3 rounds to accomplish something, and along the way you may get frustrated with not being successful. So, or it could just all be ripped out from under you. The tokens are gone.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Well, I was gonna do this.
There's a little bit more success, I guess. Less frustration.
I think I'm on right where you're at. Everything for me is about the investigators. I think the first thing I would change, I think the most, and I think you could fix a lot of stuff, is by having better investigator abilities. Again, I feel like I read through, and I died, so I got to read through them twice. The investigators, and so many of them are like, this is never going to happen, And I feel like if you have an investigator, what I look for is, I want someone who's going to be doing something every single turn. I'm going to use this every turn. There's so many guys in there, like, I'm on a space with another investigator, like, I'll maybe do it twice this whole game.
Yeah.
So, and there's several guys that their power relates to being. So just take a few of those guys, change their power to a travel that would help fix those things. The first thing I'd improve. Positive thing, it's hard for me because I really like Arkham, and it's not that I want to rag on this game, I just don't know if I played it enough. But I do feel like this game really hits the mark for me, obviously, on difficulty. As Gilly said, I love difficult games because when you win them, you just feel like that was incredible. We did everything right.
But you don't like ghost stories.
I do like ghost stories.
Okay.
I get a little bit frustrated with ghost stories, but I just like a hard game. This game hits the mark for that, for sure.
Another thing that I have a problem with, but I don't know how to solve it, is... Sorry if I can...
Nope, that was all I had.
And it's the same thing with ghost stories. The rolling in ghost stories is so unbelievably difficult. And it's almost exactly the same, because in ghost stories, you kill or exorcise ghosts with colors, and there's only one of each color on the die, although white is wild. So in other words, 1/3 of the results of a die are successful. It's the same in this game, unless you're blessed. And I don't know if I really feel like it's so I feel like there's a lot of die rolls where if you roll less than 3 or even 3 dice or less, you're not going to be successful, and it's pretty frustrating.
And it's so mad.
for
It makes me so mad when I get to roll, say 9 in a combat check and can't kill it.
Yeah.
Also frustrating.
Or I had that spell. All I needed to do was prevent.
Yeah.
From dying. I had, I think, 5, 6 lore. Couldn't hit once.
It should be like once you get a certain amount, an automatic.
She even had an
something.
item that increased her best attribute, and it failed. But maybe that's just. It's gonna happen.
I mean, that's partially just. I mean, that's just
part
really
of the
bad
random.
luck.
Yeah.
But,
it might be.
But that's one thing though, is I don't feel like we had particularly terrible luck with this game.
No.
We had some good checks. Some checks go well.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
even some like, I'm going to roll 1 die, I'm not going to do this, I'm going to die. Bam, got it. Oh my god.
Yeah.
And yet we still got halfway.
I seriously think, though, if we had not gotten the TikTok rumor, we would have made it. I think we would have made it.
It was looking good.
That's my one regret, is that I did not leave one one turn
One turn
sooner.
earlier.
But I don't know
but
if
you
I
couldn't
could
have
have.
because you wouldn't have killed that other monster.
But I didn't kill. Yeah.
Well, what you could have done is just skip the monster.
Yeah.
Well, but
That's the only
I was
option.
already,
already
in the
halfway-
fight.
she was
I was already
halfway
in the
through
fight when
fighting it.
TikTok Man came out, so I
Yeah.
fought one more round,
Oh, I
then
see what you're saying.
moved.
Yeah.
So I could have left
And
him.
I gave you an extra move in order to get over there in time.
He
Yeah.
did. He gave.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know, but that is my one regret with this game. But that's hindsight, right?
That's okay.
Yeah.
Hindsight's 2020.
You're always gonna
You
find
shouldn't.
something.
You shouldn't
Yeah.
have.
Oh, because the other thing is you couldn't predict when the TikTok men were actually going to go off.
which
because-
was every turn after that.
Yeah. It could have been not for the next 10 turns.
It could have been like Battlestar, where
It would've been-
you want to jump? You want to jump
It would be
icon?
nice.
Never.
It would be nice to know the
If
the
it had
general
something, yeah.
the general probability
Probabilities.
of,
Yes.
like Omen Track
Mhm.
results,
Yes.
Reckoning results. To me, it seems like
I was kind of wondering if somehow the wasn't randomized, or you have to like it was just alphabetized, and all the first ones were the.
well, okay, so how you
Oops, we forgot
how
to
I
shuffle
have-
the deck.
How I have it
Yeah,
set
right.
up is I kind of took some cues from the Pandemic Vassal mod, because what you have to do is you have to set up stages. So you have to take, like, for the first stage you have to take 1 green, 2 yellow, and 1 blue, shuffle them, and then put them on the bottom of the deck. Then you take the other sets for stage 2 and you put them without shuffling the 2 stages together. So within each stage, it's possible that they could just be shuffled and then just be bad luck.
But they were for sure shuffled in this
Yeah,
game.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
By the way,
This didn't feel like.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it didn't feel like anything.
We haven't talked about this on this part of the show yet.
Yeah, real
so.
quick. So we always play our streamed live games on Vassal, which, by the way, we always recommend getting the board game, but it makes it a lot easier to stream when we can play it on Vassal. And it's always there are modules per game that's on Vassal, and the module for this one happens to have been made by our very own Game Face Killa. So thank you for doing that. It was really great. Actually, had a request.
It looked really good. Yeah.
Yeah,
Very well
had a request for him to get it. So
Cool.
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, it's not that difficult to make a module. The hardest part is getting the picture files correct. I mean, a lot of the cards are pretty blurry, which I'm still trying to tool around with that. And the map itself, I had to scan in sections because I don't have a scanner that's big enough.
It looked
Who
really
does?
good, though.
Yeah,
I don't know
it's
how I
great.
ended up being able to match it so well, but
Man, yeah. Nice.
yeah, so it was a lot of fun to make, but there are some things that are very difficult for this module in particular. Like there are times when you get a reward where it says draw a random weapon asset or something like that. So you have to be able to search through the asset deck and find just a weapon trait item.
But you would do that anyway with the
Right. So
with the cards.
So yeah. So there's some way that you have to kind of just have to pull cards out until you get the one. It's a little messy, but I think it would be nice if I could figure out some way to make that work. But other than that, yeah, I feel like it works pretty well.
So if you are a Vassal mod maker out there and happen to know how he could accomplish that task,
That would be nice.
please let us know in the comments. Did you guys have anything else about this game?
I think I've whined enough.
Wanting to know.
Exactly.
Leave comments, because I am paranoid. I don't want to rag on this game and then find out I'm just
exactly.
missing-
We're just doing it wrong.
missing a combination of investigators that's incredible, or I'm
But at the same
missing
time, you shouldn't
something.
have to have a certain combination.
Yeah, but just let us know if you're pros and you've won this many times.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
Let
definitely
us
think
know.
we neglected the gates. Definitely think we.
Well, next time.
To be continued.
Maybe.
That's a thought.
No!
All right. Well, yes, leave us some comments below. We would love to hear from you, especially if you have any tips for us on how to play this game. Thank you guys so much for watching. You can always watch the VODs of us playing this game also on this channel in the Table Flippin' Board Games playlist. Thanks for watching, and we will be back next month with a game that has not been decided yet. See you later. Bye.
Thanks.